Are you ready to start querying agents, but you have no idea how to put together a query letter? In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what goes into a query letter so that your manuscript will be requested. Hi picture book writers, I'm Pam Calvert and welcome to Viewer's Choice. I've decided to do something a little different this time, and that's because you all have had a lot of great feedback given to me, and so I have a whole lot of topics to do, and I thought that would be fun to be able to do it in a casual atmosphere. And instead of the workshop that it's on Mondays, on Fridays we're just going to do topics that you suggest, and then we're going to do the viewer edits and viewer questions at the end. All right, well, let's get to it. So I put up here a query letter that's just an example, and it has every single part in it that you're going to need. The first part is your salutation, and that's Dear Miss or Mr. Agent. You should know exactly how they are addressed because they have websites all over the place, so you'll know who you're speaking to. And you really need to research your agent. So the next part, you're going to tell that agent why you chose them specifically to send your query to. Agents are humans just like you, and they need to know why you chose them. They don't want to be one of the numerous hundreds out there that people just blast query to. You should not be blast querying anyway. They want somebody that really cared enough to query them for a specific reason. So in this first part, I've put up something that's similar that I've given to agents. It's just one or two lines. It says here, I noticed you love funny, quirky, character-driven picture books with heart, and I really connect with your literary taste, so I thought my work would fit. Now, I did send this to a specific agent, so if that agent saw this and thinks that that's what I send to every agent, that is not the case. I send just a specific, I craft a specific thing for them, the reason why I thought they would be good for my work. All right, the next part is your jacket blurb. It's what is going to catch their eye. It's your hook and best, these are synopses. It's trying to wet the whistle of your reader, basically. So if you would go on the inside of the jacket flap, you'll see what the synopses are for maybe your very favorite books, and you can see how they're trying to capture the reader's interest in order to maybe buy the book. And I just put a generic one here. You're going to do one that might have a pun in it or something that would captivate the essence of your book. I wrote here, it just says, my newest picture book, the best, most awesome picture book in the world, is about a wonderful child character that gets into all sorts of trouble, but in the end realizes he can do his best. It needs to be a good hook. Why would we want to read it? All right, and so you had your jacket flap blur, but in the second paragraph, if you go on down, you're going to sort of try to sell your book now. You're going to tell what's so unique about it. Why is it unique in the market? Is there any other books like it out there? And if there are, what sets this one apart? This one it's just very generic, but I put, this book is full of funny antics about a kid who goes through a really radical day, something kids will love and connect with. Plus, it's character driven with loads of series potential. So if you've got something like that, you're going to throw that in there. Who doesn't love a humorous escape story with lots of slapstick? So you're just trying to show what is the incredible thing about this manuscript and why the agent would want to read this. And then the last part is your credentials. Now, this is kind of a fuzzy one. Everybody's like, oh, I don't have any. Well, why don't you get on that? Why don't you try to write for magazines? Why don't you try to go into contests? If you have a contest that you've won, or if you've written for magazines, if you're published that way, you can put that here. If you have an MFA in creative writing, that you need to put that here. All right, so I just put down here, I've been published in various magazines such as Child's Magazine and Hippo's Corner, and those are all just made up. Plus, and then I always add something. Plus, I'm thrilled to tell you that I've been selected for the Best Future Picture Book Writer Prize for 2020. So if you've won any kind of award, so let's say if you're in a mentorship program that you submitted to and you won honorable mention, you need to write that here, because that's an accolade. That's something that you have earned. Now, if you have nothing, a lot of people will say just leave this part blank, but I will have to say, let's say you're writing for STEAM or STEM. I don't know which one it is anymore. I think it's STEAM. If you are a science teacher and you are writing a science picture book, then you, as a science teacher, have some sort of credentials. You are an expert in science. You have a degree in it. So you would write that down. That's what I did when I first was starting in magazines. And in that part about publishing credits, I wrote that I was a physics and chemistry teacher. Now, sure, I wasn't published in the children's realm, but I was published in a statewide women's running magazine, and I put that down because I had little credits before. So always put any kind of writing credit, even if it isn't children's writing, if it's other kind of writing, that needs to go in there. You at least have some sort of credential. But if you absolutely have no credentials for writing the book, then yes, just leave this part blank. They'll just look at your hook, and that'd be just enough. It would for me. If I was going to consider a picture book, I wouldn't care about the credential. If the hook was good enough, I really wouldn't. And then the last part is the query itself. Some people forget this, and you can't. You need to ask, can I send you this manuscript? And so I wrote that down here. May I send you the best, most awesome picture book in the world? And then at the last part, it says, thank you for your time and consideration. And that's always good to say something like that along those lines. And then sincerely, and then put your name. And since it's an email, I would write underneath there that any kind of website. I hope you have a writer's website. I tell all my mentees to get one. If they don't have one, it needs to look professional. So they are going to go and look up there and see what you've got. If you have a blog already about picture books, that says a lot. That means that you're well read, and it just elevates you. Also, if you have a lot of followers on Twitter or followers on your blog, that says a lot to a prospective agent as well. It means that you care about social media and that you're going to be able to promote your book should they sell one for you. Okay, and if you have any questions at all about query letters, give me a comment down below and I will do my best to answer any of them. Okay, now it's time for viewers' questions. And I got one from Judith Ford. And so she says, hi Pam, thank you for your videos. I like that they're so real and down to earth. Thank you. I heard you say that you wrote for highlights, and I have a question about that. If a magazine publishes a story, can that story ever be published in book form too? Highlights takes all rights. So you get a contract from Highlights if they accept your story. And all rights means that Highlights has the ability to republish your story as many times as they want. They don't have to ask your permission. They will in turn publish it again and keep publishing it. Since they take all rights, that means that it cannot be a book. You cannot take that story and make it into a book unless you turn that story into a middle grade novel. Then it's really not that story anymore. You are creating something brand spanking new out of it. And since it's a huge middle grade novel, you're just taking an idea and then that's sparked and then turning it into a story. So that's different. But taking the exact words and the exact story and republishing it or putting it into a picture book or whatever, you can't do that. So now we're going to do the viewer edits, and This viewer is Sheila Schmotzer. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. And she has a really cute story about an airport mouse. And we're going to go over, she did a lot of different things from all of my videos. She's incorporated a lot of the things that I talked about. And if you haven't yet, I would really advise you to go and find the 6 tips to help elevate your manuscript. Sherman, who's the mouse, hides behind the cheese crackers. Those are his favorites. And he's in an airport. So I'm not doing the first pages, but he's at an airport and he's a little mouse trying to traverse through the airport. All right, kerplunk. A bag of cookies falls down, down, down. The boy opens a tiny door and grabs the cookies. Uh-oh. Sherman sees something fall out of the boy's hands. It's an airplane ticket. Sherman knows this is important. Sherman's smart because he's a mouse. Sherman, hey kid, your airplane ticket. The boy does not hear Sherman. Shh. Sherman must give the airplane ticket to the boy. Sherman jumps on the bag with the wheels and waves the ticket high in the air. Sherman, if you're having to put in brackets who is talking, we don't do that. You need to write dialogue. I don't know, guys, comment down below what picture books you're thinking about. That do they just have these little bubbles and people are talking? Is that how you're thinking about these books? Because I really don't understand, and I've seen this a lot in my critiques and in the mentees. I've had a lot of mentees submissions this year, and this is a trend. It's like you don't want to write dialogue tags. It's like somebody has told you not to write dialogue tags. I don't understand that. You need to write dialogue tags. And not only that, you don't have to have dialogue tags. You can just write, action in between, and that will show the reader. And that's what I'm going to do in one of these viewer choices, is we're going to go over dialogue and how to write dialogue, because you guys have to get a handle on it, because dialogue is very important. It's just as important as any other thing I've talked about with you. Hey kid, your airplane ticket. The boy does not hear Sherman. Sherman must give the airplane ticket to the boy. And here's another thing. You're going from the POV of Sherman to the POV of the boy. You must choose one POV, because this is not a novel. And even novels, when you're talking middle grade, you don't jump from one POV to another unless you're doing it in chapters. Choose your POV. So it's got to be only from Sherman's POV. Whee! Sherman is racing fast through the airport. Sherman is fast because he's a mouse. Go, Sherman. Sherman sees the airport cleaners. Now let's do the after. All right, now here's something that she decided to do. She decided to use onomatopoeia as a repeating phrase. So she wrote plunkety plunk plunk, and then the very beginning, her catchphrase was like zippity zip zip. It just depended on where the mouse was. She had shushity shush shush, and then now and he must not get caught. So that was a repeating phrase, which I really, really, really liked. So let's read how that happens in here. It says plunkety plunk plunk, a cookie tumbles down. So remember from the cookie before, this is a lot better. Reaching inside the door, the boy drops something. It's his airplane ticket. Sherman knows it's important. Sherman's smart because he's a mouse and he must not get caught. Now, must not get caught is a repeating phrase, which I really like. Now, she's got it in the brackets again. Sherman yells. Why can't you just say Sherman yells? Just say it. You're not shoring up words this way. It looks bad. When we read stories, and I want you to, this is your homework, is I want you to check out 5 picture books and I want you to study their dialogue and study that they are actually saying Sherman yells. And I want you to see how that's set up. And I also want you to look at how sometimes they aren't using dialogue tags. Sometimes they're using action. I want you to see how they do that. All right, so it should say, Sherman yells, hey kid, your airplane ticket. And what he could do is you could have him wave it at the guy, or you could have him rush. I want to see him do something here. Sherman races and hurries and sprints and flurries through the terminal. We have some rhythm in here. I don't want to confuse you on that. But what I'd really like to see is more of a zooming type of rhythm here instead of the, it's kind of like a races and hurries and sprints and flurries. See how it's dun da da dun da dun da dun. It's not giving us that fast pace that I think you should have. And I love your zippity zip zip and I cannot get caught. Good job with that. And I really am interested in this story. I like the idea of it. And I did not establish what his internal and external conflict was because we just didn't have a lot of time for that. Great job. Thank you so much for submitting it. Okay, and now if you guys want your work looked at by me, send your first 2 pages of your before and your first 2 pages of your after to pbuniversity100@gmail.com, and maybe you'll get on here and I'll be able to look over your work. And if you have gotten anything out of these videos, please, please, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, comment, because that's the only way YouTube will notice this channel and it'll suggest it, and it's the only way it'll grow. So I really appreciate all of your support, and I'll see you on Monday.